Hi, my name is AJ Smith, and today we will be going over lesson 3.21, solving quadratic equations using the best method. Whenever you are solving a quadratic equation, you want to have a decision tree. This decision tree will help you find out what is the best method for the equation you are given. The first question you ask is, does the equation have an obvious factor? If it does, then you can easily factor the equation. If it doesn't, you ask yourself another question. Is there a b term in the equation? If it doesn't have a b term, then you can use the square root method. If it does, b divided by a divided by 2 squared makes sense for the equation. If it does, you can complete the square. If it doesn't, you have to use the quadratic equation. The first method we will be going over is factoring. For factoring, you have to first set it equal to 0. After this, you factor. Factoring means whatever multiplies to give you the a times c and adds to get you the b value are your two factors. For this, it will be x plus 3 equals, x plus 3 and x minus 1. These are your two factors. After this, you have to set both factors equal to 0. So you have x plus 3 equals 0 and x minus 1 equals 0. After you've done this, you solve. By solving, you have x plus 3 equals 0 and x minus 1 equals 0. This, you minus 3 from both sides, which means you get x equals negative 3 for your first solution, and then you add 1 to both sides, which means you get x equals 1 for your other solution, which means your two solutions are x equals negative 3 and x equals 1. This is the first method you can use for solving quadratic equations. The second method we will be looking at is the complete the square method. The first thing you do in the complete the square method is move the c value to the other side. This gives us x squared plus 6x equals negative 1. After this, you have to add b divided by 2 squared to both sides. This means for both sides you get x squared plus 6x plus 9, because 9 is the value of b divided by 2 squared, because 6 divided by 2 is 3, and then you square it, which equals 9. And then you add 9 to the other side, which gets you 8. After you have done this, your next step is to factor the square. This makes it, the factor for this is x plus 3 squared equals 8. Then, to get rid of the parentheses, you have to square root both sides. So what you come up with is x plus 3 equals square root 8. Then, because you have to have two solutions, you get it to where x is equal to negative 3 plus or minus square root of 8. To simplify even further, you take 8 and you get it to x is equal to negative 3 plus or minus 2 root 8. Then you find your two solutions, which are x equals negative 3 plus 2 root 2, and x equals negative 3 minus 2 root 2. The third method we will be showing is the quadratic equation method. The first thing you have to do is set the equation equal to 0 in standard form. So our equation is going to be 6x squared plus 11x minus 35 equals 0. Then after this, you find your a, b, and c values. So your a value is going to be 6 because it's in front of the x squared. Your b value is going to be 11 because it's in front of the x. And your c value is going to be equal to negative 35. The third step is to plug all of these values into x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. There's also a catchy little song that goes along with this. X is equal to negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. This is what our equation will look like once you plugged all of these in. And as you can see, you need to put parentheses around the values that you put into the equation. So, for our equation, as you can see, we'll simplify it to negative 11 plus or minus 121, because 11 squared is 121, plus 140, because negative 4 times 6 times negative 35 is equal to 840. And we're going to have the square root here. And then this is all over 12, because 2 times 6 is 12. This is the equation that x equals. The next thing we'll do is find the square root of 961. This turns out to be 31. So you're going to put negative 11 plus or minus 31 all over 12. And this is what x equals. Our next step is to find the two solutions. So we have x equals negative 11 plus 31 over 12, and we have negative 11 minus 31 over 12. For this problem, we're going to have a negative 42, so we're going to have negative 42 over 12, and for this problem, we're going to have 20 over 12. The last step is to simplify these into our solutions. So our two solutions that we have for this equation are x is equal to negative 7 over 2 and 5 over 3. The last method that we will be using is the square root method. This method is useful when you don't have a b value. So the first thing you have to do is set it equal to 0. So we're going to have to minus 4 from this side. So we get x squared minus 16 equals 0. After this, you move the c value, so you add 16 to both sides, which makes you get x squared equals 16. The third step is to square root both sides. So we have x squared equals 16. So we're going to take the square root of both sides, which comes out to x equals plus or minus 16, because we have to have two solutions, plus or minus 4, because 4 is the square root of 16. After this, we solve. So one of our solutions is going to be x equals 4, and our second solution is going to be x equals negative 4. These are our two solutions to our square root method equation. So, we're going to go over which each method is used for our final review. For factoring, you always use this if it's easily factorable. For the square root method, you use it if there's no b value. If you're completing the square, it means b divided by a divided by 2 squared makes sense. If it's the quadratic formula, it means it's your last resort, but this one will always work. Thank you for listening.